My day with two Montreal Canadian stars, and one of the two wishes one thing is really going to happen. And the way I see it going forward for both of them, I'm Marinaro, and the Sick Podcast is coming up. I'm going solo.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro. The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
And now a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Sports entertainment like no other. Brought to you by 8.6 Beer, intense by nature, and La Cage. If the last time you went to La Cage was when the Habs won the Cup, it's time you went back to La Cage. The menu will surprise you.
Marinaro, the Sick Podcast, presented by 8.6 Beer, intense by nature, the beer for those who follow their instinct and live their passions in order to make their mark, and La Cage. If the last time you went to La Cage was when the Habs won the Cup, it's time you go back to La Cage. The menu will surprise you. Speaking of going back to La Cage, I'm going to be going back on July 7th because we're going to bring you the sickest draft party in Montreal on Thursday, July 7th, the first night of the 2022 NHL Amateur Draft, in which the Montreal Canadiens hold the first pick overall. What a great day I had earlier today at Jardin Montréal for the Sports Celebrity Breakfast, which has been going on for years. Over the past couple of years, they haven't had the event, of course, unfortunately, due to COVID. But it was back this year, and it was a great event benefiting the Jewish Center for Seniors Foundation. Awesome event. And, you know, so many people were there, and representing the Montreal Canadiens, or former Montreal Canadiens president, Ronald Coré, was there, and current Montreal Canadiens players and stars. Nick Suzuki and Cole Caufield was there. Former players and Stanley Cup champions and Hall of Famers, Yvan Cournoyer, Frank Mahovlich, and his younger brother, Pete Mahovlich. It was a great day. And I just figured I'd share some things with you. At one point, Nick Suzuki and Cole Caufield were both called up on stage at the same time, and they shared their thoughts, answered some questions. And, you know, besides being two very talented players, what I really like about Suzuki and Caufield is that, you know, they're proud to be Montreal Canadiens players, and they're not the only ones. There are others as well, but not everyone gets it. And they get it. They understand what it means to be a Montreal Canadiens player. They understand how important it is to go out and meet members of the community. They understand how important it is to go out there and meet members of the fan base. I did not see them refuse an autograph today. I did not see them refuse a picture. They were very, very generous with their time. It was awesome. And at one point, there's a couple of answers that caught my attention. And one of them was a question from Eric Engels of Sportsnet, who said, there's a table of media here at the event, and when next season comes around, they're going to be asked to give their predictions. And chances are most of them, maybe all of them, and maybe Eric himself included, will say that the Montreal Canadiens are not going to make the playoffs. And Cole Caufield was asked, what would you answer to that? And he said, or to those people. And he said, well, to those people, I just wouldn't say nothing. And he got a big round of applause for that. I think a lot of people like the answer. Nick Suzuki talked about the fact that they're building something pretty good here and pretty special here. And he hopes that, like the old timers, that he'll be able to win a couple of cups here. Mind you, they won more than a couple of cups, but Yvan Cournoyer, who was there today, won 10. But I thought that was pretty cool. And Nick Suzuki said something, of course, that caught everyone's attention, which was, hopefully, you know, Cole Caufield can be signed to a long-term extension and they can keep him here for a very long time. Think about these two players. Suzuki has played 3 years in the National Hockey League with the Canadiens, and Caufield played 10 games a year ago and then the full season this past season. So Suzuki has completed 3 years on an entry-level contract that paid him just over $863,000 in cap hit. And Cole Caufield completed the 10 games and his second season and a cap hit of almost $881,000. Suzuki, of course, has signed a long-term deal, which kicks in at the start of next season, which will see him get paid $7.875 million on the cap for the next 8 years, with the final 4 years of that contract being a modified no-trade clause, by the way, in case you're wondering, where the player presents a 10-team no-trade list. So Caufield's contract, right about now, at the end of his second season, this is when Marc Bergevin signed Nick Suzuki to an extension after his second season, and now Kent Hughes has the opportunity to do the same thing with Cole Caufield. There's different ways you can go about this. You can offer a player a bridge deal, and then after that, you can try and offer the player a long-term contract. But with the way things go in the National Hockey League, and you know what? When you have a special talent in your hands, you lock up that talent. You sign that talent to a long-term contract. You don't leave the talent hanging and waiting and wondering. You lock up the talent. So I would lock up Cole Caufield, who led the Montreal Canadiens in scoring with 23 goals this season. We all know what he can do. In his first complete season in the National Hockey League, he led his team in goals scored. The Canadiens don't have enough great players. When you have great players, once again, you lock them up. I'm convinced that Kent Hughes will sign Cole Caufield to a long-term contract the way Marc Bergevin signed Nick Suzuki to a long-term contract. They were asked at what point did they realize that they had chemistry together? And we'll all recall that goal that Suzuki scored on the 2-on-0 with Caufield when the Canadiens played the Leafs in the playoffs a year ago. And it was, I think it went from Caufield to Suzuki, Suzuki to Caufield, back to Suzuki, or something like that, when, Caufield was able to intercept the pass from Galchenyuk, or maybe it was the other way around. Anyway, you get my drift. It was a 2-on-0, and ultimately Caufield passed the puck to Suzuki. He was asked about it today, and he goes, I still think I did the wrong play. I still think I should have shot. But he said, luckily, you know what? Nick Suzuki was able to pot it home because I didn't give him a good pass. I think the puck was standing up or on edge or whatever it was. But when they were asked at what point did they realize they had chemistry together, they both said like immediately, right away. And so, you know what? It's hard to find a duo that has chemistry together. Before you can get a line, you need to get a duo that has chemistry together. And you know what? I would sign them up. But not only that, you double shift your best players. That's the t-shirt that I'm wearing today. That's our sick merchandise that you can pick up at sportbuffshop.com. Use code 615 for 15% off on all of their items. You can shop all of your licensed sports apparel, including hoodies, caps, t-shirts of your favorite teams from all major leagues as well. Hey, get yourself something from Cole Caufield or Nick Suzuki. Why not? Here's my wish. My wish is not only do the Montreal Canadiens sign Cole Caufield to a very long-term deal, and they keep him here as long as they're going to keep Nick Suzuki here, but my other wish is to give them someone on their line that can protect these players. In the National Hockey League, I saw the Canadiens with Saku Koivu, and you know what? They gave him Recchi and they gave him Savage, and he had other wingers, but, Saku never really had anyone who could, play that very tough power forward game, protect them if anything went wrong. And Josh Anderson can definitely do that. And I know I've talked about, I really want that second pick overall in the draft badly. And I'd be willing to trade pretty much anyone whose name isn't Caufield or Suzuki But at the same time, you don't have enough Josh Andersons on this team. I just wish that he would play with a little bit more consistency. But here's the deal. You can find a player who's not the biggest and not the strongest and all that stuff, and you can play him with Suzuki and Caufield. But you usually end up playing players that play the puck and play offensive together at home. When you're on the road and you don't have the last line change, it's always good to get a big body to insulate them. And I brought up the name of Tyler Bertuzzi probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And you know what? Or maybe Josh Anderson, but you're going to need someone to play these guys with at home, which I think won't be Anderson. And you're going to need someone to play them with on the road. And on the road, that could be Anderson. But if he ends up going in a trade, and if you're going to trade Anderson, you better make sure it's the right trade. You better make sure it's for that second pick overall, or else don't end up trading him. So I hope for Suzuki and Caufield that the Canadians are able to find someone. Kent Hughes is able to find someone that will insulate them and take care of them and protect them and do a lot of dirty work for them and do a lot of battling for them. Unlike Saku Koivu, who, God love him, had to do a lot of the battling on the ice himself at times. And it wore him down at times. And I think some of his injuries probably, were a result of him having to do a lot of that battling and a lot of that grinding and all that stuff. Kent Hughes is a smart hockey guy. Jeff Gordon's a smart hockey guy. And Marty St. Louis, who was a small player, talented player, much like Cole Caufield, knows the importance of having a guy on your line that can protect you, that can grind, that can be there. And he referenced Vincent Lecavalier, a centerman, as being one of those guys in the past. And Marty St. Louis gets it. And if I were a betting man, the first thing I do is I go to Betway for the love of the game. I'd sign up and deposit on Betway for a 100% deposit bonus. The easiest sports book for Canadians. E-transfers are accepted immediately. And if I were a betting man, I would bet $1 or $2 that the Montreal Canadiens are going to end up either picking up someone at the draft or making a trade at the draft or making a trade in the offseason to be able to get someone that will play with Suzuki and Caufield. And if I were a betting man, I'd put $1 or $2 that Cole Caufield is going to be signed to a long-term contract extension. I would say in the next couple of months here, because Canadians fans need as much good news as they can get. And knowing that they have Suzuki here for the next 8 years, I know is something that they're really happy about. And when they're going to be able to announce having Caufield here for the next 8 years is something that I know, Canadians fans will be really happy about. You need to have, they've showed the chemistry together. They've showed the talent. They showed the skill. One is more of a playmaker. The other one is more of a goal scorer. They're like bread and butter. And you're going to have to sign them up. And you know what? The rebuild or the revamp or whatever you want to call it is off to a pretty nice start when you're going to have Suzuki and Caufield together for a pretty long time. Once again, I want to take the opportunity to thank Mike Wagan, Mike Cohen, and everyone that was associated with the event today for not only inviting me to have them join them, and I've been going for the longest time. It's an event that I really, really enjoy. It's well run. It's for a great cause. It's great people. They raise a lot of money. Today's event raised over $300,000, which is unbelievably amazing. I have so much respect for the Jewish community, the way they come together for great causes, and the way they're always, the way they help each other, and they're always willing to help others. I think it's absolutely fantastic. It was, once again, a well-run event. Congratulations to Rick Moffat, who won the Larry Fredericks Media Award, recognizing excellence in sports media. And Rick was a member of the sports media and a member of the media for a very, very long time, decades and decades and decades. A very versatile broadcaster who at one point was a co-host of a morning show on an all-sports radio station and was the play-by-play for the Montreal Canadiens, the Montreal Alouettes, and the then Montreal Impact, now CF Montreal. An extremely versatile broadcaster, an excellent broadcaster, a great man, And it was my honor to present them with the Larry Fredericks Media Award earlier today. So thank you, everyone, for having me. Thank you, everyone, for giving me that honor. So many people came by and said hello and wished me well going forward. And it was pretty cool to see so many people just yell out sick, sick, sick the second that they saw me. So they're all on board with the Sick Podcast, and they know that we're going to be going more regularly with the Sick Podcast than we have gone with over the last couple of years, because of course we have more time on our hands now, which is kind of cool. Tell all your friends about it. You can follow us on all social media platforms, on our Facebook page, Twitter page, and Instagram page at the Sick Podcast, and our YouTube channel. Subscribe. It's absolutely free. Thanks to everyone. And Caufield and Nick Suzuki, it was nice seeing you and chatting with you earlier today. Look at that beauty, huh? Me and Cole, me and Nick. Pretty cool, huh? You have the picture with Cornway too? Look at that. Yvan Cornway talking with Nick Suzuki and Cole Caufield. Isn't that awesome? Huh? That's absolutely beautiful. Love you, Yvan. And Nick and Cole, I'll see you soon at the Sick Podcast. Oh, yeah, they're going to join me. You'll see. We had a chat about it. Tell your friends about this podcast. It was sick before. It's going to get even more sick going forward. I'm Marinaro. Caufield and Suzuki, you know what I would do with them? I'd double shift them. Why? Because in the words of the great Peter from Côte St. Luc, double shift your best players.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by 8.6, Intense by Nature, and Lacage. If the last time you went to Lacage was when the Habs won the Cup, it's time you went back to Lacage. The menu will surprise you.